Hello and welcome to episode 36 of Hybrid Fitness Report, part of the ByAthena podcast network and sponsored by Wadley. My name is Paul Reynolds.
My name is Jude Reynolds.
And we have got a big podcast for you today because we've got a lot to catch up on, particularly with Jude's post-World Championship racing, which is an interesting way to conduct your off-season. But Jude's kind of been busier than ever over the last few weeks. We got some industry updates as well. And some speculation from me as to what happened at Chicago 2025, which has been a source of angst, or had been a source of angst for Jude for 11 months and 3 weeks until he put things right in Stockholm the other week. But I got some thoughts about that after I started digging into some of his data. So yes, you may have noticed up front, we are now part of the ByAthena podcast network. We'll tell you a bit more about that in a future episode, or probably in the next episode. But just to say, it's a great opportunity for us to be involved and to partner with ByAthena. And if you haven't already downloaded their app, please go to the App Store and download that. ByAthena, I had it down pat a minute ago. ByAthena is all about competitive fitness, basically. So if whether you're a CrossFit person who doesn't like Hyrox, or a Hyrox person who doesn't like CrossFit, or a CrossFit Hyrox person who really enjoys both, as well as Deca and Deadly Dozen and hybrid games and many other competitive fitness sports, ByAthena is definitely a home where you can find advice, news, updates, reviews, and a lot more else besides. So do go and download the ByAthena app, and you'll see us and our sibling podcasts on there. So Jude, a few things, just general industry stuff. First of all, at the CrossFit end of things, they are CrossFit or CrossFit trying to Hyrox or something like that. But their new sport, their new event, their new thing, the new venture Xenom launched in the US last week at the first event, where they had a very impressive, very impressive setup. I think it was in Dallas for their first event, and they were hoping for sort of at least 500 to 1,000 people, and they wound up giving away about 250 tickets and selling probably about 850. So it had a very impressive looking thing. Sounds familiar. Why? Who's done that before?
Don't know. It might be something about the recent Hyrox major on a certain event. Hyrox struggling to sell cruise tickets. Let's keep up.
Well, to be fair, Hyrox seems to have sold out everything else except for the one thing that everyone was initially most excited about. So cruise was like, oh wow, that'll be really awesome. Then they said, okay, we'll do that then. And everyone said, no, we were kidding. But Xenom, the idea of Xenom, if folks aren't familiar with it, is to provide a kind of predictability. So one of the big differentiators of CrossFit is that you don't necessarily know what's coming next, workout-wise or event-wise, for the games themselves, and it's all about getting a breadth of fitness and a breadth of skills, so that if you get given any particular fitness racing task, you can do it. Whereas Xenom, like Hyrox, is here are these set things that you do every time. We'll give you points for it and find out who's the winner. Jack Farlow won on the men's side. That was possibly the biggest name that was there, I think. So a very professional launch, but massively loss-making. And I know folks are already speculating as to why that is. It is worth pointing out that their next event in London, which is in a couple of months' time, looks to have sold a lot more tickets. I mean, for some reason, us Brits seem to be completely hooked on competitive fitness in a way that other people aren't necessarily, although some brands are bigger in the US, like Deca is obviously bigger in the US than the UK, but it seems like you can put on any functional fitness event in the UK and it's going to sell out, and Xenom isn't an exception. I wonder, is it the fact that it takes 2 days, Jude? Is it the amount of money you have to spend? Why is it that they struggled so badly for a launch event where you'd think would be almost most popular?
I don't know, the timing didn't seem ideal, and the games are coming up, so you have two ends of the spectrum. You have the CrossFit athletes who are 2 weeks out from the CrossFit Games, the biggest event of the season, so you're not going to get any of them. And you've also got the other end of the spectrum with the Hyrox athletes who have just competed in the World Championships, or at the time we're just about to, or it was right around that time. And so it was just, I think, timing-wise, definitely wasn't preferable. Xenom, as you stated before, is a bit... It's obviously quite CrossFit-y, and so it's not super inclusive, and so you're not going to get a huge breadth of athletes, because, I mean, we looked at the workout list a while ago now, and you saw stuff like rope climb, you saw stuff like muscle ups, and it's like it's too close to being CrossFit. And the whole everyone who loves CrossFit, I think part of them love the unpredictability of it, and there, it's new every single time. That's a huge element of CrossFit that is in no other sport in the world, is unpredictability. And I think if you take that concept out of CrossFit, it just becomes this weird niche event that I don't think, people must say this about Hyrox before it got popular, so I don't think it'll gain popularity. I don't see Xenom being anything huge. Again, I could eat my words in a few years. I don't think I will.
Yeah, and with the unpredictability piece, it's not just, as you hinted at, it's not just a nice to have thing. It's kind of the stick that CrossFit people beat Hyrox people over the head with. It's like, well, you know what you're doing every time, so it's boring. And they're very proud of the fact that a segment of the community, not necessarily all of them, are very proud of the fact that they don't know what they're going to be told to do next, and that's what makes it a challenge for them. So as you said, if you take that bit away, what you're left with is barbell Hyrox, I think, in terms of some of their perspectives. And the pricing, it's an elite pricing, apart from anything else, because it's an entire 2-day event. So you need people who are much more committed than you have to be to do Hyrox. Forget the training piece, just in terms of committing time to an event. Hyrox, if you're close enough, you're in and out in a day. There, it's a 3-4 day undertaking. It's a kind of almost a holiday. At the very least, it's a very long weekend. To the amount of time and financial commitment you need to make to participate in an event that's not the peak of your area of fitness, because CrossFit Games is. And also, with CrossFit Open, you can register some kind of a score, and if you're working out in a CrossFit gym, you can do scaled versions. Whereas if this is supposed to appeal to the masses, but there are no scaled versions, again, your potential audience of people who can even do it is really, really small.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, you have to put yourself in the category of a supplemental event or a focal event. Just by that, I mean something that allows you to train through it in order to pursue something else, or have it as its standalone thing, as in we want people to prepare for this. And if you want people to prepare for this, it needs to be a sport in its own, which you're asking people to take, like you said, 2-3 days out of their sort of entire calendar or their training week to prepare for it. That's not something that you just sort of train through a 2-day all-out max effort event. If you're truly doing that, that takes a lot to recover from and a lot to taper towards if you're really focusing on that. So I think in order for you to take that much time out of people's weeks, I think you need to be established, which the CrossFit Games is, which is why the CrossFit Games lasts 3, 4, or 5 days. I don't think you can last that long and be that much of a commitment if you're a supplemental sport, which Xenom has to be, because it's not popular enough to be a focal point.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you imagine, for example, someone like Deadly or Deca, even though Deca is kind of older than Hyrox in some, well, it's not older than Hyrox, but it's Spartan goes back. If Deadly perhaps came along, or ByAthena came along and said, actually, we're going to have a 2-day event now, while they're still trying to get their name out, it'd be like, hang on a second, we know Hyrox, Xenon, we know CrossFit. What are you doing this? And
it's like
sure
Deca's half an hour to an hour, and you're out. And then Deadly is like 40 minutes to an hour and 20. You're out. Hyrox
39 minutes. It's obviously in your case 38 minutes in Dave's case.
Yes. Yeah. Or 30. I think he did 36, 37.
37 and a half minutes, and you're out.
Yeah. Speaking of Dave Parkin, he just did a Deadly Dozen where he posted a 39-minute Deadly Dozen, which is I've only done it once, but that was what I got. He then had an 8-minute break, and then he posted a 40 flat, both of which beat my doubles partner's time, who is very fit in his own right. So he had podium spots 1 and 2. He had a whole 8-minute rest, but yeah.
Oh my days!
Which goes to show the fact that they were within, I think, at most 90 seconds of each other. He was probably racing both of them on a tempo basis, meaning sub-maximal effort. So he probably used it as a very long, extended, in inverted commas, threshold session in terms of intensity, which is just crazy to drop probably a sub-40 average between the two races.
Maybe if the World Championships in September, we can persuade Jason Curtis to give Dave a weighted vest. Or donuts,
I reckon that would be a good race. A 10 to 20 kg weighted vest
versus everybody else. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put that to Jason and see what he says. Okay, so speaking of other hybrid fitness events, hybrid games. There was an update a little while ago that there'd been some kind of an investment, and it looked like new owners were joining. That seems to have morphed now into the original founder guy, Dale, now being out. So obviously there have been some concerns about hybrid games with various partners and suppliers being concerned about unpaid invoices, and with a completely new ownership structure, and they've just started advertising again heavily online. So it might be the things are going to be somewhat different there. They're looking at, I think, Newcastle and Birmingham next year, and they're already trying to sell tickets to Birmingham in July next year. So they're going hard on recruiting people and getting events on. So maybe that's going to be an interesting relaunch and a new era for them. On the Hyrox front, apparently, this is from Matt over at Hybrid Fitness Media, possibly looking at as many as 14 spring cities for Hyrox in the USA. Obviously, spring is when most of the US events happen. They kick off later than Europe and kind of dip their toe into racing in pre-Christmas, and then really take things over in January and February when Europe's just hiding behind frozen doorways. Well, mind you, so is most of the US, but San Diego, for example, are looking at event, and various others they're hoping for. So something for you to look at when you do your soon-to-be annual Cayman training block in the depths of the UK winter. So the week after Stockholm, when you'd just about recovered and found a place to put your World Championship barbell plate, you were down at Battersea Park for ByAthena race. ByAthena being the same weights as men's open Hyrox, or did your elite wave have the same as the pro weights?
Yeah, so there's elite waves now that they've introduced, which are the same as pro Hyrox weight, and then the regular waves are just at open weight for both male and female, respectively. Okay,
so you and the Bingham family and a few others raced in the elite wave, reminder for folks again: the ByAthena parameters are 500 meters, so half the Hyrox length, and then half the Hyrox distances. For everything else, is that right? So with the ergs, half the distance as well. So everything
in the
is
same
half
order and everything.
Right, but outside in what was it, 31 degrees centigrade, something bonkers like that. Yeah. Okay, so that should have changed the dynamics slightly, but it was basically so some really good races in there, but it really came down to you, Bingham, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a really good event. Like, it was a week after, like you said, World Championships, and I didn't feel like I needed this whole, like, if I guess we can go into a little bit of an off-season chat briefly before we go into the ByAthena thing, because that's been a big topic since Worlds, is you have polarizing views on the matter of, oh my goodness, you have a big handful of athletes saying, I really need this off-season, it's great to have time off, and you have the other side of the spectrum, which is more me, my coach Chris, and a few other athletes as well, being like, is there really an off-season? So, I mean, it depends. I think at the end of the day, if mentally you are completely worn out and exhausted and can't even fathom racing or doing another threshold session, then maybe 2 weeks of low intensity and no structure is what you need. And that can be beneficial. It's completely individual whether or not you should have an off-season. And so I don't think there's a black and white answer of you need an off-season after World Championships, because maybe you didn't train that hard and you're just naturally gifted and you love the sport, and so you just keep wanting to pursue it. And or in my position, you love racing, you're still new to the sport. You know, your first race was 2 years ago to almost a day, and you've been properly training for it for a year and a half. So I think it completely depends on mentally where you're at and physiologically where you're at. I'm feeling fitter than I ever have. I don't have the desire to take a massive break from anything. I enjoy structure, I enjoy routine. This is my job. I think with people with a full-time job, a 9 to 5, for example, I think it's a different kettle of fish. I understand why they're sort of wanting a complete break from it, because I had that out of uni. I got a job straight away, and I went straight into just over a year at a gym in person being a PT, and it was literally train, work, sleep, repeat. So I completely get how people in that lifestyle feel like they need an off season. With me, like I said, full-time job, and some athletes, even like Tim Venus, for example, Hunter, a handful of others as well, they felt like they need an off season. Completely individual.
And some guys train very hard, but completely differently. So several guys like Lars and Danny Danny Ray, Lars Rademacher, and some others are either doing trail running or triathlons or other kind of pure endurance activities. They might be training almost as hard, but different modalities. And some folks, are just not as obsessed about the process. And that's neither a good thing nor a bad thing. Where I would say you're quite obsessed with the process. Some people kind of building to events, and they will do anything and everything necessary to prepare that event. And then they do the event. It's like, right, great, have a break, and then restart the process. Whereas you're like, you finished Stockholm, you had about 5 minutes of happiness over it, and the way your brain works is whatever's just happened. You'll have the massive high or the massive low, and then it kind of disappears, and you're like, right, what's next? So you kind of need to dive straight back in, because you wouldn't know what to do with yourself if you didn't.
Yeah. I think, and like going back to what you said about Danny and Lars going off on, doing less Hyrox specific stuff, it's, how are you personally defining an off-season? Are you defining it as a physiological break, or are you defining it as a Hyrox-specific off-season where your training is now no longer tailored to the stations within Hyrox and the energy demands within Hyrox, but you're now, training for, like you said, like a triathlon, and so you've got big brick sessions of cycling, running, and swimming. So it's all about how you define and how you want your off-season to look, and I think it's dictated by mentally where you're at.
You mentioned that you might have big brick sessions.
Yeah.
What's that?
Brick sessions just being big chunks of work with a single modality before moving on to the next. So, for example, if you had a 1K swim followed by a 10K run followed by a 20K bike, that would be a brick session. And it's usually done at a low intensity, and it's typically how a lot of triathletes train, whether it be Olympic distance, triathlon, Ironman, whatever it is. Brick sessions, just big chunks of work after each other, all of the same modality, moving into the next. But yeah, so essentially off-season, I haven't sort of taken much of one at all, because the 2 weeks after Worlds, I had a competition each weekend again, which we'll get into. But yeah, just in terms of off-season, what do you feel like you need mentally? For me, again, like you said, with the process, I absolutely love it right now. And, you've got people who've been in the game for ages. Like I remember talking to Kieran Parkinson, who his whole life and every single hour of it is Hyrox, and so for him, after a big race weekend, he often needs some time to just mentally disassociate from the sport itself as much as he can, despite him having loads of clients that he needs to then check up on and program for. Like, I can completely understand how some people need it. I personally don't, and I think if you don't make the most of that. So my mind is still on my next race. It's still on what can I do to get better. So it's all about that process. Yeah.
And if, like Kieran, you have a young family, then disassociating from Hyrox will happen naturally. As soon as you turn your head, you have responsibilities and people you love all around you to look after and so on. So I imagine a lot of people in that kind of situation, they owe their family some disassociation from Hyrox apart from anything else.
Yeah, but that's why I love being in the situation I'm in, because it's my job. I don't have a family yet. For now, thank goodness. I can just slowly focus on, getting better at my sport, which is Hyrox, and I can dabble in sort of the other events that we're going to talk about coming up. Like I've got Decas, Deadlies and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that all circles around to how the ByAthena race went, I guess.
Yeah. So you rocked up after, you got back from Stockholm on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday recover, and then Saturday racing in the blazing British summer heat. How was that?
So I touched down back from Stockholm and took it relatively easy for the next 2 days. Had a threshold session sort of like quite soon after Worlds on that Thursday. So 4 days after I competed, I had another threshold session. Friday was easy, and then Saturday was Battersea. So I felt quite good, in all honesty, going into Battersea. Like, I didn't feel too beat up from Worlds, doing the solos and the Friday doubles on the Saturday, because I think a lot of that is down to the volume that I've been doing. So I've spoken about it before. I'm sort of up there in terms of volume with Charlie and Dylan, up with like anywhere from 21 to 26 hours a week of active training hours. So I think being able to compound that for months has meant that the fatigue at which I suffer from post-race, even when doing back-to-back days, is minimal compared to people who can only fit in, say, 7 to 14 hours in a week. So I think I have that to my advantage.
And when you were when you were working full time in the gym and then training on the side, you were doing what, more like 14 to 16 hours a week?
Yeah, it felt like more. I was in the gym physically for anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a day. But in terms of what I could actually do without like crediting warm-ups or anything like that, I was probably about 14 to 16, yeah.
Right, so you've added 8 hours a week. So the main benefit you're saying of going full-time has been the rest and recovery and thus repeatability, but you've also basically increased by 50% the training load itself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay. So that's just a sidebar. So back to Saturday.
Yeah. But yeah, that was why I was feeling so okay.
Eventually.
It's the ADHD brain. It's going everywhere right now. But it was good because obviously I have a lot of confidence in the structure of the race because we're training for Hyrox and everything's in the same order, so that was fine. It was just balancing how quick to go out with it being super hot and it being half the distance of a Hyrox. So it was sort of in my head, how hot do I go out? And it didn't really go out that quickly. I came into the ski ahead of Shane and Joe. I think it was Shane, Billy and Joe. So I came to the ski first, which again, I hate this whole
not
leading
comfortable with. Yeah.
No, I don't like it. Like, why is a 2:36 marathoner coming into the ski after me? I don't like it. So came into the ski first, skied 1 to 2 seconds per 500 quicker than Hyrox. Came out of there and led the race through the push, through the pull, and then coming into the burpees was where Joe said that he had in his head before the race that he was going to push and take me and leave me on. And he did. So I expected him to come past me on the burpees because, again, just because I'm falling back on the burpees doesn't mean that I've gone out too hot or I've hit a wall. I'm not very good at them.
Just
it's
simple.
simple.
Burpees. Yeah.
Yeah, getting better, but still not good at them. So got overtaken about 20 meters into the 40 meters of burpees. And then he led it through that run, the row, the run.
I do tell you that you're crap at burpees every single podcast. And I think it's worth reminding you every time we podcast that you are crap at burpees. But I think one of these days, what we're going to have to do, because I'm now at the point where I think for what I am, I'm reasonably fit. You and I need to do a burpee broad jump race, just so that people understand when I say that you're crap, that I am speaking unbelievably relatively, and that you will beat me by minutes. I just think people need to see that because I keep telling you how crap you are, and I think people need to just understand what I mean when I say that. So I think that'd be quite fun.
In relation to the people I race against, I am. So, I mean, it's all relative. It's I don't know how much help me racing you is going to be.
I think it would be funny. It's not going to help anything. I think it'd be funny. And when I say you're crap, I mean, you're like 15 seconds slower, where for you where you are now, that means crap. But it's not. It's amazing. It's world class, but slower than people who you're trying to beat. So I just think it would be funny. I think you and I need to have a race.
Well, I mean, for reference, my last Hyrox race at Worlds, I was 2:36 on the burpees. So it was my best one, but it's just not great.
It's a little bit quicker than mine. So we're not going to do any more arm wrestles. I've refused to arm wrestle you since you were 14 and you nearly broke my knuckles. But
no, I barely beat you at 14 and then proceeded
15.
Yeah.
15, you slammed my fist back on the table before my muscles actually engaged, even though I was the one doing the countdown, which was disconcerting, and also the last time. And then I think that was the same month we had our last ever game of Mercy, and where my hand I couldn't actually grip a pen for several days after that. So,
but I think we need a rematch because I've started training Hyrox and I'm now 93 kilos with some change.
Oh, so now that you're a lightweight who's lost all your pecs, that maybe I can beat you again. That's a good point.
Maybe it's reversed.
Let's definitely not do that. So Joe, back to ByAthena, which we will finish. So back to ByAthena, you went out like a complete lunatic. I think apparently, i.e. you led when you really are not supposed to lead in the early stations. You were still leading the burpees when more or less per Joe Bingham's schedule and yours, he overtook you. And you were just in the middle of telling us what happened after that when I interrupted you.
He then had the gap on me, but from when he ran out to when I finished the burpees, obviously, and we just sort of kept that gap coming into the row. I then caught up a few seconds on the row. I think I was 144. He was around 147. So I made up a bit on the row. Came out quite similarly. And then again, he's a stronger runner than me, so just held that. I think it was a marginal lead at that point. Came into the farmers at the same time, and that's when I pretty much made all the time back that I lost on the burpees. So I put probably 6 seconds into him within 100 meters on the farmer's carry. And then that was sort of the lead that I held throughout the rest of the race. So then we came into the lunges, and I think it was 4 lengths, so it was 40 meters in total, so it's probably 10 meters each length.
Bearing in mind this is on grass, so planting your foot is horribly unstable. You need to be super careful about it.
Yeah. And that first length of lunges, he just stepped straight through. I didn't even know if there was hip extension. That's how quick he was going. Like, he just... I thought, oh no, he's found some like second, third wind and I'm just going to get annihilated. But then as soon as that second length came, I kept my firm cadence. I was stepping through because I knew it was only 50 meters. Sorry, so it was 5 lengths, 50 meters. And I lost the lead in the first length and then made it out ahead of him on the lunges. Came into the wall balls ahead of him because he said he wasn't going to push it. Again, it's 50 reps in the wall balls, so I know at this point, unless I'm completely screwed, I'm going to do them unbroken. So I came in, and I think me and Joe both had incredibly lopsided balls.
Sorry to hear that, young man. I'm sorry to hear that.
I didn't ask to see him. That's not what I meant.
It's not my fault.
Our medicine balls were very improportionally weighted from one side to the other. Our medicine balls were very wobbly. And so I think my first rep... We're 12. My first rep was... I don't even know if I think I failed the rep. I don't really know, because I sort of caught it and went over to my left-hand side, came back up, squatted, and went. So, I mean, I don't know if it was a no rep, who knows. But I think he dropped it twice within the first 6. I almost dropped it twice within the first 6. They were weird, but managed to do the 50 unbroken, and I ended up... the race was incredibly close until the last 30 wall balls, and I think I ended up beating him by like 40 seconds or so. But that's always... that's why I love being really good at wall balls, because I know almost no matter what happens, I'll finish strong. So that was good. Really good race. The only thing I said to them was they had their only water stop station positioned right by stations 2 and 3, and so after the sled pull, you didn't have any access to water in 30 plus degree heat unless you wanted to run back an extra 50 meters and come back. So they said that next day on the Sunday when they were also hosting the event that they'd reposition another water station, which is good. So it was a tough race in the heat. Tough race, racing Joe, but I knew that going into it. I wasn't expecting to beat him. I thought I could, and it did end up being a decent gap in the end, but it was a really good fight all the way through. So apparently I had Anand come down to watch me, and I had Michael from the gym that I train at race himself as well. So Anand said it was a really good spectator viewing, so to speak.
Cool.
So it was very
cool.
good.
So success at ByAthena, go home, get changed, sleep, and then go to Sydney.
Yeah, which was quite, late notice. Like we talked about, we talked about it on the phone, like a day or two before Athena, so 3 days ahead of the time I actually left for Sydney or something like that.
This wasn't in our long range plans, and we'd spoken for months actually about trying to get in an Asian race. Hadn't been able to get any tickets to any of the Chinese races or any of the other races happening in the region, like
which
Chengdu.
Sucks, by the way, because the winner in that race did it in 103. Josh White, great athlete, by the way. It apparently wasn't really a good course at all, but 103 winning it, I was like, oh,
in Shenzhen.
That would have been nice.
That was the week after Sydney, so you probably wouldn't have done both of those anyway. But that was one of the alternatives. Combination of couldn't get tickets and too late talking about it to get tickets, and then the possibility of Sydney came up. So we spoke about that. Did we speak about that while we were in Stockholm?
No,
I think we broached it in Stockholm, but we arranged it literally at several days' notice, and fired you out of a cannon. So you landed in Bondi Beach on Monday night. Tuesday morning was your first training session, and then you raced on Friday. So you had a few sessions in. Your coach was over with some of his clients, visiting a whole bunch of his clients actually who are racing, because Chris is based, I think, on the West Coast, right?
He's in Perth, yeah.
Yeah. And then Friday morning you had a race. Now James Kelly wasn't towing the rubber on the singles because he was doing the doubles that weekend, but you had Dexter Buchanan, who finished, I believe, 10th in the Elite 15 at the World Championships.
Top 10, might have been 9th.
9th or 10th.
But it was top 10. Yeah.
Top 10, Dexter finished in the Worlds, and you had Jonathan Wynn, who's coming back for a final year. So he's an incredible athlete, hadn't had the Worlds that he wanted, so he was looking to get some redemption in at Sydney as part of the kickoff of his final year at the top of the sport. Those are the two arguably biggest threats, but there were some other great guys who don't have such big names who are also kind of a threat. But you were fairly confident going in of getting the podium. How did the race itself pan out?
Similar to ByAthena, I felt great going in, which is, I think, great credit to Chris as well for being able to program and structure my training to enable me to feel good at that point, despite all the logistical complications between Worlds and Sydney.
Despite the logistical complications and despite his client.
Yeah, what of me wanting to train and do stuff?
Despite you pushing very hard to do things and just being just a very bad client, really.
Yeah, but he's used to it. So I kept asking him
he's also quite assertive.
Yeah, to do this or that. And he said, "What did I say? No." I was like, okay. So I kept trying to do more stuff, but it turns out that it was a good idea to not do more stuff. Weird.
Yeah.
And I felt fresh going into the race, to be honest. I felt great during it. I mean, I went in thinking I expect to come top 5 overall. I hope for a podium, and a win would just be like sort of just best case scenario if Dexter doesn't have a great day or whatever. So,
and just to be brutally honest about this whole thing, this wasn't this is a normal schedule and let's go fly to the other side of the world to do a race. This was a naked points grab.
Yeah.
It was. You have aspirations to reach the Challenger division, i.e. the top 30 this season, and the best way to do that is to get points where you can. Everyone's thinking it. Everyone who's top 60 to 100, I'm guessing, is going to be thinking, where can I go and try and get points? And you were confident in your level of fitness. You didn't want, as we said earlier, you didn't want an off-season of do nothing for 2 weeks and then rebuild. You wanted to maintain your current level of fitness. So he said, well, in that case, and given to my great surprise when I was looking at the different events that Sydney still had places left, we said, well, how about trying that? Because it's not going to... You might not podium, but it's not going to be the most stacked event of the year because it's right after World when some people want an off-season rest. So your main competition is likely to be local competition. That's why you went, and that's why we're saying, okay, you weren't fussed about times because they don't really matter, but you were confident going in of podium. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and as expected, I was not first into the ski in this one, so I came somewhere around 15th to 20th into the ski. Dexter took out the race hot, and him or one other guy, I think, but mainly Dexter, were leading for the first half of the race. Spoiler alert, Dexter led for the whole thing. But so he led into the ski, came out of it, and his running for someone his size as well, because Dexter's a relatively big guy, his running's really strong, especially in that first half of the race that I noticed. So he was into the ski. John Wynn was someone who I was looking to sort of, because he'd said about before the race that he was going to try and pace it really well and just be very tactical this race and not go out too hot. And so I was like, okay, he's essentially an Elite 15 athlete. He has been for 3 years in a row. He just missed out on it this year just gone. This World's just gone. So I was like, okay, just if I can sort of hold on to the sight of him for the first half of the race, then hopefully I can kick on at the end. And it turns out that I was behind John Wynn by a good 15 seconds, came into the burpees, and weirdly, I think the burpees is actually where I overtook him. So
that is odd. Came
into the burpees in, I think, third and left in second. So not only overtaking someone on the burpees, but overtaking John Wynn. I don't think, just retrospectively, he had the best day. He had complications near the end of the race. I don't know how much it was affecting him in the middle, but he probably wasn't having his best day in the middle, and I still managed to overtake him on the burpees, so that gave me a good confidence boost. And at that point, I sort of held second behind Dexter for the rest of the race, so came into the row a bit behind him, made up a bit of time on the farmers and the lunges, but marginal, and then ended up coming into the wall balls 3 reps behind him. But it was weird because they'd pointed to the wall ball, I took it, and I'd walked up to the counter next to him, and just as I'd done a rep, they said, no, move. They meant the other one. And so I didn't think that it was in the pro races that you had to leave a space between you and the next athlete. I thought it was just elite races. But for some reason, they didn't want me using the counter next to him. Anyway, that probably wasted 1 rep, maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds at most. So then went into the next wall next to him and started 3 to 4. I think I started 4 behind him. And and we both ended up getting 2 no reps. We both ended up going unbroken, and I finished 4 behind him. So I think he beat me by 7 seconds in the end, and it was just a great battle from actually not the first half of the race at all. It wasn't fun or interesting to watch, I think. And then coming into the row, I think, is where it became a really good battle, because I'd closed the gap at that point to about 10 to 15 seconds. And I think I closed it 20 seconds and then made up about 15 seconds from then to the end of the race. So it was a really, really good battle.
So you're saying you're about half a minute off him before that, and
yeah,
right. So you weren't even
closed well.
You weren't even the leading contender. Really well. You weren't even the leading
No.
contender then until the row, right?
No, yeah, the sleds went well. I made up a lot of distance, a lot of places on the sleds, and just pushed my lead a little bit further than 2 others on the burpees, and then finished really strong. And Dexter also finished really strong. So it's annoying coming in 4 reps behind someone on the wall balls and just knowing that. In my head, I thought he was going to go unbroken as well, so it's like that. I couldn't really make up any time there on him, so he did really well to finish that out. But end of the day, he
smashed his PB.
Yeah, so he got a PB as well. He raced well, and coming second to someone who came 9th or 10th in like the Elite 15, is looking back, I'm quite pleased with it. But it's whatever happens. I've said this before. Goals fluctuate, and going in, I was like, top 3 would be cool. But being 7 seconds off the win, it's always like, no matter how well you do or how well the other person does, you always just, you really want that. Could I have made up 7 seconds? Yes, obviously. But then if I had, he probably would have too. So it's all in hindsight. But really, really fun race. Really enjoyed that, and came away with 100 points. So I'm now up to about 50th in terms of points in the world, I think. Am I?
Yeah, 54th. Yeah, 54th. Yeah. You've got 4 race results that count. So obviously, for folks who don't know, when you're trying to qualify for the Elite 15 or the Challenger division, you take the top 5. We won't go into how the points are allocated, but essentially you get points for where you finish rather than what time you finish. But very broadly speaking,
Sorry, speaking on that with the whole points thing, it's weird. I didn't even mention what time I got. I got 55:27, which is
a massive PB.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're not trying to qualify for the elites, the first thing you do is cross the finish line, look at your time. I didn't look at my time for like 2 minutes until after the race, and I was like, oh shoot, I forgot, time would be kind of cool to see. Turns out I got 56:06 2 weeks before at Worlds, and then PR'd again at 55:27 in Sydney. 55 is sort of that number that I was looking at for ages, and to just like finally have it and essentially not care about it because it's all based on points now is such a weird feeling. To like, even at Worlds as well, I didn't even look at the time because I'd won, so it was sort of like, oh, whatever. Like my past 2 PBs have been huge and didn't even in inverted commas care about it. Of course I do, but in terms of the what you're trying to accomplish with it, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So very, very briefly on points, the winner of the event will get 105. Second place gets 100, and then for positions 3 through 8. Yeah. And then positions 3 through 8 get a point score, which depends on how close they were to the winner in time, very broadly speaking. So all that, with that being said, you're currently ranked, I think it's 54th, with 4 races. You need 5 to have a qualifying score. You've only got 4 races at the moment, as has Hunt McIntyre, as has Alex Ronkovic, as has Alan Cow, as have a number of other people, top racers, who are going to need another race before they're even eligible to qualify for an event. So if you were to finish similarly in another event, if you were to get, let's say, a second or a good time in 3rd or 4th, at the moment, that would put you in somewhere in the mid-30s. So you're kind of right on the edge of the Challenger division in terms of where you probably stand. Again, there are some other people who also have only 4 races, but you're right near the top of all of those who have only 4 races to qualify. Just looking back at the World Championship results, Dexter came in 10th behind Thomas Tverdik and just ahead of Sean Noble and James Kelly. And his time there was 56:16, whereas he had about something like a 55:18 or 19 in Sydney. So he set a new PB. Stockholm obviously was a bit of a slower race for almost everybody. There weren't many people in your position hitting PBs. And to be fair, your PB is partly related to the fact that your previous PBs were in Spain, which was a bona fide slow course. So you know, we've mentioned this before, but the only very nice and cold, slick sledded course you've ever raced is Warsaw back in 2025, which is when you first beat the hour. Ever since then, you've had neutral or relatively unfavourable environments to race in. So your time's been getting better all the time, but they haven't leapt like some other people's have. So Sydney being probably a neutral course or marginally favourable, but only favourable compared to Stockholm, which was, and a lot of people have not complained about Stockholm, but gone, man, that was hot. And I know you didn't feel like it was because you've been used to being where I am rather than where you are in the world, which is very, very warm. So Sydney, a great success. But as you said, given where you were, you thought, maybe I could win, and then when you didn't, I've seen this video of you going to Chris Bairns immediately after, and there's kind of a rueful look on your face and almost an apology. It's like, well, you came second to the guy who was 10th in worlds. That's okay, especially when it's second by 9 seconds. We'll take it.
Yeah.
So a trip well worth it, and then back and no races this weekend.
I know.
How do you know even what to do with
Chris
yourself?
this morning saying it feels so long since I've raced. I feel like I need one, and it's like I raced literally last weekend, which is just crazy to think about because obviously when your environment changes that drastically in such a short period of time warps, and it just feels like ages ago. But yeah, I'm not got anything this weekend. Not got anything the weekend after. I then got Deca Fit the week after that on the 25th of July, and also now doubles with Jeremy McConnell, which will be cool.
Awesome. Is that the same day?
Yeah, I think my solos is at 1:30 and our doubles is at 4 or 5:30.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said getting the boots right after because so we're definitely hoping to win that one. But
so you said get the boots right after. These are massage boots. I messaged you about massage boots because we've spoken about them a bunch of times. Michael has them and he says they cost a lot, but they help. It's just whether the cost he's not convinced on the cost benefit analysis. But you kind of flippantly there said get the boots on. Do you think they're worth it or not?
Well, I said that because that was the quote from Jeremy, what he said, which is I think he's saying it as a figure of speech. No, that was literally just a figure of speech. They don't have Normatex or Thermo, whatever you call it, at Deca. No.
But do you think they might be worthwhile?
I don't know. Someone who actually knows a load about what they do on a biological level, send one of us a message, please, because we'd love to actually know if it's worth the 800 quid they look to be.
I just know that I use a massage gun very regularly, and I find it incredibly beneficial. I've even used it in a quasi-emergency mid-workout where my back was tightening up, and I had the very you got slightly more kind of bullet-shaped attachments, and then a much softer, wider-headed attachment, and I used that at a low speed on my lower back, and it just eased things up. It loosens muscles up pre-workout. I think they're fantastic, and I know they work. So I've got to think that a whole massage boot is going to do similarly. It just really works the real. And the other thing, because sometimes when I'm just doing stretches, I feel like I'm ready to work out. But when you get the massage gone on certain muscles, you realise those things are sore and tight as heck. You don't realise it just from stretching. So I flipping swear by the massage guns. So I assume the boots are the same. So then you've got Deca Fit doubles with Jeremy, and then end of August you've got Deca Strong and Deca Mile at a local gym. So you're hoping for world qualification. So you're hoping for world qualification with Jeremy, or he's got a main homie somewhere else?
We haven't spoke about that, and he didn't lead with that. So my thinking is he probably won't bother with the trip to Florida. My main focus is just to qualify for the trifecta, which is the Fit, Mile, and Strong in all three.
And if he does go to Florida, he won't be at the Deca World Championships anyway because they're in Fort Worth.
Yeah, good point. That one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are your July and August races, and then after that, the next one is Rome, which is the last weekend in September, and is your first European Hyrox race of the season.
Yeah, so I've got a busy September to the end of the year, but that's why this July and August is so empty. Like, I'm training as if, pretty much, other than the day itself, I'm training as if I don't have a race from now until September, which is just because it's an important block of uninterrupted just fitness building, and we've got a few things in place with the program now to sort of as my focus is leading into that. So I'm not going to taper or tailor my training in any way towards the races in July and August, but it's just sort of that's going to be my off season, and I'm not being sensitive about saying I'm not tapering for either of those. I think that's fine to say. That's
I forgot to mention a massive race that you do have in between that time, and surely you will taper slightly for the Deadly Dozen World Championships, where you have singles and doubles first weekend in September.
Yeah.
Are you tapering for that, or adapting your training for that at all? You've got to adapt it slightly. You've got to do some bear crawls, Jude.
I just think Hyrox right now is such a big focus in my season. In terms, it won't be a massive taper for Deadly Dozen Worlds. No, I don't think so.
Mini taper.
I think maybe, yeah. I mean, I'll speak to Chris about it, but it's not going to be anything major. But yeah, Deadly Dozen is an important race at the beginning of September, so it'll be, not exactly completely training through it. Maybe a couple of easy days leading up to it, but I should be all right.
Okay, which takes me very, very neatly onto. I say neatly. It takes me on to the need for good training gear, which takes me, doing all that racing, all that training, you need some good training gear. And if you would like good training gear, it takes me to our sponsors, Wadleet, a UK-based sports apparel company. Wadleet's designs come from a love of functional fitness, helping you to build strength, mobility, stability, and endurance while staying comfortable in what you wear. So from performance base layers to changing robes, from gym shorts to hoodies, and training socks to track jackets, Wadleet have got you covered. Head to wadleet.co.uk, that's WODLETE.co.uk, for their full range with free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and worldwide shipping available. And use code HFRPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your order. Now, before we close out today, Jude, I just want to take you back to your worst race ever, which I know you love to do. I know you love to talk about Chicago in 2025. But I would like to. I'm doing some breakdown of your stats, see how your times are changing in various different events, and it won't surprise you, and you already know that your best ever run average was at Sydney, where you averaged 3:24 minus the rock zone. Your run average in Sydney was 3:24, whereas you had been averaging about 3:35 to 3:40 for the rest of the season, and at Sydney also was your best sled push. Now, you already know, but can you tell? You do know this, but can you tell me what your worst ever sled push was as a pro athlete, not the Open? Right. And do you remember what the time was?
I'm gonna say 3:40, 3:20.
That's more like it. So your best ever. So most of your sleds are kind of 230 to high 250s. Sydney was a 210. Chicago was a 3:16, so by far your worst sled push, which was a near universe, except for those people who had sleds on ice and just shoved it while it sailed off in front of them. Most people had a similar experience to you, where the things stuck, and so you expended a huge amount of energy because no one was expecting it to stick. So everyone was trying to maintain their usual pace and blew themselves up. So you, like most people, blew themselves up on the sled push. Now, can you tell me your best ever sled pull time and or where you got it?
Glasgow, 2:56.
So Glasgow, 2:39. That was this year.
Sled pull.
Sled pull, sorry, 2:56. Yeah, sorry, that's not. In fact, that's nowhere near your best sled pull time. Nowhere near your best sled pull time. Your best sled pull time, 26 seconds better than Glasgow, was at the 2025 World Championships in Chicago, where you did a sled pull in 2 minutes 30.
Honestly, I don't think that can be correct. That might be a timing error. I don't think so.
That's what it says.
I'm very confident that's a timing error. As in, I'm probably a minute slower than that. That doesn't make any sense. It's definitely not, by the way.
Or
so
it does.
maybe that's how the timing worked, but it definitely wasn't.
Well, if the timing system didn't glitch,
your entire point, but that's definitely not true.
The machine says it is true. Computer says it's true. If it is true,
the
it would
computer
explain.
also says me and Michael did 19-second lunges in Glasgow.
Yeah, but it would explain a couple of things. It would also mean that Michael's bad time is your fault and your bad time is Michael's fault. because you were, and the reason it would be that both of your bad times is partially each other's fault is that because you both blew up like everybody else on the sled push, you were then racing next to each other. You went into the sled pull, and I think what happened to a lot of people, including you, is that you tried to make up for on the sled pull what you lost on the sled push. So not only had you already blown up on the push, but you then worked too hard trying to make up for it on the sled pull, which meant you did a great time on the pull, but then had basically nothing left after. And with Michael next to you on the sled pull, not only were you trying to make up for your own time that you felt yourself, but you're racing the guy next to you who's your best Hyrox buddy. Might that not explain a very good sled pull time?
No. I remember vividly tripping over the rope, pushing it to the side and being very exhausted. I've not done a 2:36 with those factors. No.
Okay, so the computer says I made a great point and I just explained your entire sucky performance, and you say, subjectively
I didn't realize
speaking,
that was
that's
the
all wrong.
basis for the whole world's performance was a timing error.
No.
Oops.
No, the basis. The base of the world's performance, bad world performance, was the push, unequivocally.
Even though I felt awful on the ski and could barely hold a 148.
Yeah. Well, but that's suggesting you basically just choked, and we're trying to move away from that possibility. Yeah, you didn't just choke; you were a little bit sweaty. Okay.
Okay.
And then you had a sucky push, and an unusually great pull that was part of the problem. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So even if you were to add 20 seconds to your sled pull time and make it into an average, after that push and trying to keep up and racing Michael next to you, I think that's still part of the blow up, and I'm sticking to that because the computer backs me up.
Could be.
To close off, we can talk a little bit about our training. Now, your training hasn't changed, or how's your training developed or changed post Worlds? Post Sydney, forget post Worlds because it was all a mess until after Sydney. Are you back to doing roughly what you were doing just before Worlds, or has Chris got you doing something quite different?
We've now agreed to up my volume a bit, so it was.
What?
Sometimes I do the odd session where it was like he'd program me something and I might like extend a few pieces here and there. Like he doesn't say much about it, but he knows it's happening. So now it's sort of he's upped it to about what I was extending it by. So. My training
volume, doing stuff behind his back, and he's just incorporated it into the actual program.
Because I'd always send him exactly what I did, so he would still know about
would you?
it. But
would you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, the training volume has mutually gone up now instead of just one-sidedly gone up. And it seems I think I've got a few extended running pieces more at tempo effort this week. Which I hadn't done a lot of before. It was a lot of specific threshold work, which I'm still doing, but I think the new extended running tempo efforts is to help with the fact that, along with the burpees, running is one of my weak points, and so we're just looking to do a bit more of that where possible. I'm still having to manage my running because I can't physically do the high mileage that some of these athletes can do, just because either I'll start feeling at my calves or my hips or something, but I'm very good at managing that. So the other day I had a 70-minute easy run planned, and instead of pushing through the point where just before my calf started to feel something, before it even started to feel like uncomfortable, like right at the start of that, I went, right, okay, let's keep the volume. And I went 2K run, 10-minute stairs, 2K run, 10-minute stairs, and just kept that for the 70 minutes. So that way I half the volume on my calf or my Achilles or my hips, wherever the discomfort might be leading into, and then just kept the aerobic efforts, but just in a different modality. So more running, while pushing the running as much as I can while staying safe, and a little bit more volume. But yeah, complete training as normal since I got back from Sydney. Dealt with the jet lag both ways quite well, I think. So this week has been just full on in terms of volume and intensity where needed.
Cool.
And yours has been going, I mean, you've been relaying some stuff to me. Yours and Mum's now has been going quite well, I hear.
Well, you tell me how mine's going.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing all the sessions I program, which is really good, and I've actually put in some double days for you as well. So you've been doing some double days, haven't you?
That was very exciting. Well, you put in you put in one double day for me last month. Then my back was playing up a bit too much, so I ditched that. I was quite excited about the fact that you programmed a double day for me. Mum is slightly appalled that you've programmed a double day for me, because she's like, "Why on earth would you do a double day?" I said, "So to make me better." She said, "But this isn't your job. Why are you doing a double day?" It's like, to make me better. And then we had a kind of a circular discussion about how double days were pointless unless you were you. And I thought, yeah, but I still want to be better than I am. and this is a good way of doing it. She says, but
Yeah.
I think the implication was that she regards me as a decrepit person who should be far more careful with what he does. And she's kind of not wrong.
In Valencia, don't you?
Sorry?
You'll have to prove her wrong in Valencia, won't you?
I am going to prove her wrong in Valencia. So I'm hoping to run in Gdansk the week before. I'm definitely running in Valencia in the middle of October, where Mum is going to be. So yeah, that's my A race. That's my next A race. So yeah, I need to demonstrate that I am a non-decrepit thing. I think I'll. But yeah, I mean, the training has felt good. I mean, I don't know that I've ever felt this exhausted. I was chatting with Mum about it yesterday. The fact that I'm now training more than I've ever done before, and it's leaving me completely exhausted in the evenings, and that's 8 hours a week, which I thought then was quite funny because that's basically a third of what you're doing. Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind. In context of how I feel after 8. The idea of 24 to 26 is kind of mind-blowing to me because I feel more exhausted and kind of better than I've ever done. So the only time I've done a comparable amount of training, I've done roughly that amount of training before, but that's peak marathon training. At the end of peak marathon training weeks, I wouldn't feel completely exhausted and looking forward to the next workout. I'd be in a lot of pain dreading the next workout. That's the big difference. After I've got to do an hour and 10-minute run today, I think, followed by an accessory/core thing. So that's going to be about an hour and a half's work today, which will be fine, or it won't, but it should be fine. And I then have a rest day tomorrow, which I'm sort of looking forward to, but sort of not. But yeah, I just feel good about the fact that the volume's gone way up and it hasn't really cost me anything yet. So yeah.
It means we've increased it the right amount at the right time, and just Hyrox training in general is a lot more fun than marathon training, almost objectively.
Marathon training is utterly miserable. Even during the 8 months where I combined it with CrossFit to try and get stronger successfully, but the CrossFit bit was great. But the only part of marathon training I ever enjoyed was the one thing I'm doing as running training now, which is tempo / threshold / interval training. I used to love those training sessions, and that in Hyrox is the session I look forward to most. Strength sessions just make me nervous, and I try to get through them because in one sense it's the most fun bit because shifting big in very inverted commas these days weights is fun, but that's the bit where I'm worried about hurting myself. I'm not worried about hurting myself in interval training. I feel like I can just blitz it, feel completely shattered at the end, and feel great about it. So anyway, yeah, so training is going great. And as Chris said in a recent Instagram post, the most important thing in training is don't get injured. And I'm currently got a slightly dodgy back, but in a way that it's always going to be dodgy. So I think I'm doing okay, and I'm not actually injured. Yay! So on my not injured bombshell, I think that brings us to the end of episode 36. Just to say, because I don't know how this will look on YouTube, because at the moment all you people have been seeing occasionally my shirt is that it occasionally says Germany won. So this, if I lift it up slightly here, there we go. This is my shirt from 25 years ago when England beat Germany 5-1 away in a World Cup qualifying game. You can see all the England scores there. And what I love about this shirt is can you read what it says underneath Germany, the German scorer?
A German.
That's fantastic, isn't it? So you got Michael Owen, Stephen Gerrard, Michael Owen, Emil Heskey. Scorers for England. Scorer for Germany was a German. It's fantastic. And this is in celebration. And along with the England cricket hat, is in celebration of last night's incredibly unconvincing but deeply wonderful victory over Norway, which means that we have an existential crisis ahead of us when we face Argentina in the semis, which I can't even bear to think about.
That's going to go to penalties and something. That's my prediction.
It's going to go to something awful that involve a decision that goes in favour of Messi, is my guess. And at the same point, my favourite centre back for Spurs, Christian Romero, is going to badly injure an English person, and then there'll be lots of political shouting going on, and I can't even bear to think about. So anyway, that's what's coming up in our week, along with the training. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
Thanks very much for listening. Bye bye.